Hi, this is Jason coming from Biblical Cinematic Universe. And today we're reviewing the movie David, right here, from the Bible stories. And these were a collection of movies that were done in the 90s on the T- Turner Network. And you have all kinds of them in this one collection. You have this is only part of the collection, actually. But anyways, the David one. The major actors of note. Ironically, Leonard Nimoy gets top billing in this, even though he's only a small supporting role. Nathaniel Parker plays David, and Sheryl Lee, who is from Twin Peaks, plays Bathsheba, which is appropriate because Twin Peaks was like in a soap opera. And Jonathan Pryce, who I know from Tomorrow Never Dies, one of my favorite James Bond films, um, plays King Saul. And so let's talk about it. So the film directed by Roger Young, who later directed this Jesus movie that I kind of like too, which was directed with Jeremy Sisto. Um, in this film, you see it starts off with like David, but then flashes back immediately to King Saul to give you context, and it focuses on King Saul and the origins of King Saul, even, but goes rapidly through the life of King Saul, right? Um, played by Jonathan Pryce, who is kind of an odd duck when he in the role. He goes like, "God doesn't want us," like he does this, he does, he does that little. I don't know. You'll have to watch the movie to know what I'm talking about. It does this, uh, uh, waving our hands or something like this. But to the enemy or something, he's referring to like fighting the Philistines when he said does that. Um, but what they do is because the movie is a TV budget, like obviously you can use a lot of forest. They use a lot of forest scenes to kind of make it look like there's more people there. That's kind of creative and cool. So Jonathan Bryce does an interesting job as Saul. Unfortunately, the Saul David dynamic is really short. They kind of like are cramming it in the beginning, like cramming it. Let's get to David. Let's get to David. Let's get to David. And then we get to the David. I'm going to go over some of the stories here without getting into spoilers because I like you watching the movie and enjoying the movie. And so I kind of give an overview of some biblical stories that are in the movie and some things that are not in the Bible that are kind of interesting to know, of note. But the movie is very much like because it's going so fast, going through these biblical stories that you know. And then we get to David and Goliath, of course, and then when it gets to older David, it like literally fast tracks and just says that he was in King David was in his Saul's service for many years, and shows the marriage to Michelle, and then shows Saul wanting to throw a spear at him, and then David was on the run, and then we quickly get to the idea of like there's a big battle scene with Saul and the death of Saul, and then so that's kind of the first half of the film. But I think this was probably a two-part miniseries. But on this disc, it's like one giant movie, so it's just played as a movie. And then I found that what happens is that when they get to David, then the second half wants to now say, okay, let's go through this more like they give breath to the story. And so when we get to the story of David and Bathsheba, we really get to see a lot of breath to the story. Bathsheba is portrayed kind of like, as I said, Sheryl Lee was famous for Twin Peaks, which was like a late night soap opera. And so they really portray the David and Bathsheba relationship in that way. The film really shows that relationship between them in a way that I thought was well done. And then moving on, it goes into it moves the film. Spoiler alert, goes up to the point of Absalom's rebellion, and so they show up to that storyline of Absalom's rebellion, including the death of his first son, David's first son Amnon, and the relationship with Amnon and Tamar, if you know from the Bible, is kind of like Game of Thrones ish in a way. um, and so it really portrays that last half, especially kind of almost a comparison because Game of Thrones was out in the 90s to like Shakespearean or medieval drama, right? Medieval royal dynasty drama. And so I thought this film was pretty good. Um, I would say that if you're a fan of any of these films in this collection, you would really like it. If you're a fan of something like The Chosen, I think you'd like it. I think the second half is actually better than the first half because it now gets into the emotional arc of the characters. Um, and so my rating is a 7 out of 10, but depending on who you are, because I do these film reviews, not so much to give my opinion, but to give you an overview of this film, and so you can look at it for yourself, is that it definitely, I haven't seen all these other ones yet. I will, but I would say that I have a soft spot for this Jesus film because I've seen it so many times. But I did say that I did really enjoy the David Bathsheba storyline, how that was portrayed in this film, and the acting from Nathan Parker as David, Sheryl Lee as Bathsheba is really good. The acting from Jonathan Pryce is kind of quirky, but good. You'll see what I mean when you watch the film, and it's fun to see Leonard Nimoy chewing the scenery as a not Spock, but like Samuel the Prophet, right? So if you're a Star Trek fan or any fan, you'll have fun with that. I do recommend it. So see you next time on the Biblical Cinematic Universe. Thanks.